On to the baseball offseason, where we have entered Hall of Fame talk, which
My
usually
favorite
lines
time of
up.
the season.
It is your favorite time of the year. And the 2023 Hall of Fame ballot was released today. And John, you are going to love this because this might be the most obscure Hall of Fame ballot I've ever seen in my entire life.
I love it.
Of course you do.
Bring
this is
the 90s and early 2000s and mid 2000s nostalgia.
this is like every answer to every Sporkle quiz ever.
Yes.
We're missing Richard Hidalgo and Jay Buhner, and we've got it.
Yeah.
So my question, John, is while we are on the obscurity, let's have a little fun here. Who's your favorite obscure player on the ballot? And then we'll get into who you actually think gets inducted. But who is your favorite obscure player
now remember,
on the ballot?
To be eligible for the ballot, you have to reach a certain degree of service time, and there's some other factors. So there are going to be guys who stand no chance at all at going into the Hall of Fame, but they make the ballot because of their service time and their anything they contributed to the game. So the most important thing to remember about why we see so many new names on this ballot, which, as you can see, the ones in italics: Bronson Arroyo, Carlos Beltran, Matt Cain, R.A. Dickey, Jacoby Ellsbury, Andre Ethier, J.J. Hardy, John Lackey, Mike Napoli, Johnny Peralta, Francisco Rodriguez, K-Rod, Houston Street, Jared Weaver, and Jason Worth. The reason we saw so many is because so many names left the ballot last year. We saw Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens and Kurt Schilling and Sammy Sosa leave the ballot last year. So as a result, that has given us this. This is amazing because there is not one person on this ballot that you're like, yeah, I can confidently say that person's going. And listen, that's not an anomaly. There have been years where no one's been elected before, and you need 75% of the vote to get elected on this writer's ballot here. But man, I'm all about Andre Ethier and R.A. Dickey being on this. I love me a good knuckleballer. R.A. Dickey had a nasty knuckleballer for your boys.
Sure did.
Politics.
Sure did.
And Andre Ethier was just one of those guys who was perennially around. And that was his impact as far as I saw it.
Yeah, Andre Ethier is the guy you get wrong in every trivia night, right? Like there's 5 players that did X and one of them's Andre Ethier, and you're just like, how am I supposed to get that?
Who's your favorite obscure name here? JJ Hardy?
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely your boy JJ, not Matt Hardy. Just talk about a guy who just did nothing special, but just played baseball. I mean, that is just amazing that JJ Hardy has wound up on this list. Again, the parameters lend itself to having guys on the list, like you mentioned. Boy, JJ Hardy, what a blast from the past that is. I will say maybe the best obscure player on this list at their peak. John Lackey was tough as nails on the mound.
You're not going to seriously make an argument here that John Lackey's a Hall of Famer.
No, but like I'm talking about the best obscure player on the list. I mean, John Lackey was tough as nails and was willing to take the ball in any spot, even if necessarily he maybe didn't deserve to take the ball in the spot, right? So like
he also
of the obscure players
eating fried chicken in a locker room, but that's besides the point.
That's true. Of the obscure players, but my God. Am I wrong to say no one makes it? Because that was my inkling.
I do think you are wrong.
Okay.
I think you're wrong. So I feel actually pretty confident with how the ballot opened up. I think this is the year that Scott Rowland gets the call.
Wow.
I think Scott Rowland, a guy that a lot of baseball fans say belongs in the Hall of Really Good, but has received the help of a lot of advanced metric deep dives. I think he probably gets in this year or comes extremely close. And the reason why, he cracked in last year, percentage-wise, at 63.2%. So less than 12% away from the necessary 75% to get in. For or 3 guys in front of him, 4 guys in the top 5 are off the ballot. Barry Bonds, David Ortiz, Roger Clemens, and Curt Schilling are off the ballot. David Ortiz, of course, got elected last year. So that opens up a lot of space. You can only vote for up to 10 people on your ballot. That opens up a lot of space for guys like Scott Rowland and Todd Helton. Todd Helton got 52% last year. Billy Wagner got 51%. Andrew Jones got 41.4% last year.
Andrew Jones is the most underrated player on the ballot by a country mile, by the way.
Andrew Jones had a last bad 10 years of his career, and there was some personal stuff off the field that happened that is probably holding him back a little bit.
Just on the field, most underrated, patrolling center field. Michael Harris.
He's a hell of a hitter too.
And Michael Harris out in Atlanta reminds me a lot of him because there's no ball he can't run down, and there's no ball Andrew Jones can run down.
This is Jeff Kent's last year. He did win an MVP award. I don't see him making that jump, but I do think Scott Rowland's got a legitimate shot here. Among the newcomers, there are only a couple here. I'm going to pop it up one more time. Among the newcomers, you have Francisco Rodriguez, K-Rod, who in his height was as dominant as they got.
Sure.
As a reliever, but I don't know if he had the sustained dominance.
I agree.
And the big one is, under a normal circumstance, Carlos Beltran, in my opinion, would be in. I think he's the greatest switch hitter in the history of the game, and that includes Mickey Mantle. I really do believe that.
And that includes Larry over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the problem is with Carlos Beltran, he had the cheating scandal with the Astros. Sure. He was considered to be the ringleader, but the way I weigh that is relative, because this is a guy that, since he got punished by losing the Mets job, the Yankees still hired him. They put him on TV. He was a special advisor. He's staying around the game. So I think ultimately happens. I'll guess that Carlos Beltran probably gets around 53% of the vote. I do think people will overlook it for the most part. The other guys are back in the game. My big question for you is Alex Rodriguez, those types. A-Rod had 34.3% of the vote last year. Manny Ramirez, 28.9%. Gary Sheffield, 40.6%. Clouded with steroid suspicion or admitted users. Do you see them making headway with some of these names coming off, or do you see them mostly staying put?
It's going to be tough just because a precedent has been set with Bonds and Clemens not getting in. And now there's free license for anybody who was on that fence but kind of felt, you know what, I'm going to vote him because of X, Y, and Z. Now there's free license to not do that. So it's going to be a tough uphill battle for those guys to climb. And what's interesting about the Beltran comment is, if you're going to put Beltran in for cheating, because he cheated, doesn't matter that it was after his playing career, right?
Well, it's in his playing career, but it was also not as hands-on cheating as some of these steroid users.
I don't agree. I mean, again, we're splitting hairs at that point, right? Like, if we're coming down to what side of cheating is worse, I mean.
Oh, I don't disagree with you. I'm just,
so
there is individual performance versus team performance there. And I do think there is some degree of variable.
Okay.
There's just my opinion.
No, it's fair.
Variable.
No, it's fair.
And guys, we want to hear your thoughts on this, by the way. Leave a super chat. We'll read your thoughts on air, kynchat.com, or you can just leave it right there on YouTube, because I could talk about the Hall of Fame stuff all day. Listen, who of the obscure names gets the most votes?
This is a good game.
Here's who of the obscure names will get enough votes to stay on the ballot next year. They got to get 5% of the vote to stay on the ballot.
Huh. Okay.
Do any of them?
I mean, do any of them? I would go no of do any of them. But
is Jeff Kent falling off the ballot?
Jeff Kent probably falls off the ballot. So
I will say K-Rod will get enough votes to stay on.
I'll take your knuckleballer. I'll say the Cy Young carries him through the 5%.
Okay. Wow. At no point in my fandom did I ever think R.A. Dickey was a Hall of Famer, but maybe there are people that do. Realistically, I think the people that benefit from this most, there's 3 guys. They are, of course, as I just mentioned before, I think Scott Rowland has a legit chance to get in or comes very close.
Mm-hmm.
I think Billy Wagner is going to make a really big bump. in this, and I think he's going to make a jump. And I think Todd Helton's going to make a big jump.
I think the last one's the biggest benefiter, in my opinion. I think he
Helton
makes a really big jump because of this ballot.
Yeah.
If you want to see all our videos about real news stories that are funny, stupid, or weird, click the subscribe button below. Otherwise, we'll start posting spoilers about your favorite new movies.